Ready, hot!
Just trying to grow and improve on things we did well a year ago, and correct the things that we were deficient in, and ultimately, everybody says this every year. Your personnel is going to dictate who and what you're going to be, and certainly with things that have happened in the off season and in graduation, we got a lot of young talent at skill spots. Tight ends, wide receivers, running backs that haven't been a part of our program, have never put on a helmet, shoulder pads for a game here, and we're trying to let those guys grow as we go through camp, and find out who can play and play at a high level for us as we go through the year.
Josh, you've got a lot of key, newcomers at key positions, running back, wide receiver. Can you talk about just your impressions day two? I know it's no pads and everything, but just getting to see kind of those receivers, how they've worked with Landry over the summer too.
Well, I think, from the signs of what has happened the first 2 days, them understanding conceptually what we're trying to run, not doing it perfectly, but having an idea of where we want to get them, how they want to run versus different technique, getting lined up. You can tell that they've paid attention, that they've studied, that they've handled themselves the right way, in June and July when we really can't do anything with them. We're nowhere near where we need to be, but I like the competitiveness, I like the toughness, I like their attention to detail, the way they walk into the building, their approach to everything every day. So if they can continue on that path, then I think they're going to have a chance, a lot of that young talent, to be successful and help us this fall, and we certainly need them to.
Talk about Landry's improvement as a quarterback, what you've seen so far, the security you get in having a senior record-setting quarterback back.
Well, I think it's important. One or two things got to happen. If you lose your quarterback and you got a new guy coming in, you like to have experienced guys on the outside. If you're going to be young on the outside, having an experienced quarterback that knows where he's going with the ball gives those guys a better chance to be successful on the outside. He's continued to grow and continued to try to perfect his mechanics and what he's doing, his decision making with the football. We're in day two. Has he continued to get better? Yeah. Did he do that last spring? Certainly. Landry's played extremely well for a lot of football games here. He'd like to put 13 of them together and take us to a championship. So that's the reason he came back, and those are the things that he's pushing for every single day.
Could you break down individually what the new receivers bring to the table, what you like about what they do?
It's tough, because they've only been here for 2 days. You know them as a recruit, you know them on tape. Maybe you've gotten a chance to watch them play in person. I didn't get a chance to do that with a lot of the guys because what you're doing in the last fall. I've seen them maybe in spring, when they were in their junior year. But I talked a little bit about their makeup as people and how they've approached things. Sterling Shepard. For a young guy, only been here 2 days, he's not the biggest guy, but he plays strong. He understands leverage. He likes to lean on guys and use his body to create some separation. Uses his hands as far as a young wide receiver coming off the line of scrimmage, maybe as good as anybody I've been around. And I take that, knowing that we're only in 2 days and we haven't been in pads too. Deron Neal has done some really positive things on the outside. He's squeezed, a couple of defenders and caught the ball on his outside shoulder. He's competitive. He's tough. So that's just a couple of the young guys that have really done some of that and played at a high level. Colton's had a good first couple of days. Woods has done the same thing as well. We're going to find out, you're in 2 days. We're going to find out a lot more of these guys as we get into pads, and who can sustain it over the course of 7 days as you continue to install more of your offense. How do they operate? And how efficient are they with more things going on?
Is it your expectation that this offense will, rack up yards and points similarly to the past year or two, or is there a lot of starting over aspects? You have Landry back, but lots of new guys.
You're starting over every year. Every year is a day, a game unto its own, a season unto its own. Our expectations are to go out there, perform at an extremely high level, and score enough points that we give ourselves the opportunity to win every ball game and compete for championships ultimately. I heard the DN for Minnesota Vikings talking about, they're one of the youngest teams in the NFL, I believe, and there's a lot of youth on the football team, but you're in the NFL. you got to play a certain way. That's the expectation. So it's no different here. Our fans' expectations aren't going to change. The pressure isn't any different. We expect our young guys to go out there and perform. Now, certainly we got to help them grow and give themselves an opportunity for success when we go out on the football field against UTEP at the very open. But we're going to get better each and every week, or we should get better each and every week as well.
You missed Ben Haven for 7 games last year, and I have to think that really helps you, with the situation you're in right now. But can you talk about? I
don't know if that helps us, but we've played without him before.
Yeah,
I think the experience that Gabe has gained there is valuable. 2 springs ago, he played center when Ben was coming back off an injury at that time, and I think it might have been an ankle. I can't remember which one that was at that time. He performed really well. When he had to go in last year, it was an easy transition for him. Gabe likes playing center. He's used to it. He's comfortable. He understands our identifications, what he's doing in pass protection. Our guys like playing with him. He's going to play at an extremely high level up there on the inside. And just after 2 days, seeing where he's at and our offensive line's at, I really like what I think they did during June and July, just by their approach and physically how they look and how they competed the first couple of days. They're a young group at points. On the inside we have some experience, but out on the perimeter it's still a group that hasn't played a lot of football. But they're maturing in a really good way. They're just the way they carry themselves, their demeanor, the way they interact. It's continually changed.
Well, I guess I was going to ask you how that changes the guys next to him, because you do have a couple youngsters in Shed and Irwin, I know.
Shed still played a bunch of football. He's been here for 2 full years. Played a bunch of football last year. Played at a high level. Had a great spring. Maybe played as efficient as anybody we had up front. Bronson's a guy that played extremely well. Loved what he did in January, February. Continued to get better every day during the course of spring ball. Had a great summer, from my understanding, just by the way he's come back, what he looks like physically. So we expect all those guys to play extremely, extremely well. You mentioned the guys on the outside too. Being good on the inside helps those guys. But I like the way that Lane Johnson and Tyrus have competed on the left side, and Daryl's certainly been really, really consistent on the right side through spring ball in the first couple of days here.
Josh, it seems like with Landry, people naturally, they can't write something without almost writing something, also throwing in something negative or some kind of negative thing about him. He's thrown for 12,000 yards. I mean, he's got a ton of stats. He's done a lot of good things here. Sometimes do you wonder why people seem to be so critical of him?
It comes from playing quarterback at Oklahoma. If you don't go out and win them all and win championships, you're going to take some of that. And he doesn't shy away from it. He's got a great demeanor, approaches every single day the same way, same intensity, same fire, same competitiveness. He came back, so I don't think it bothers him at all either. He's looking forward to the opportunity and the test.
Can you talk about his talent level and as a quarterback evaluator? How good is that talent level?
Our talent's extremely talented, strong, accurate, powerful. Can make every throw, put touch on it, throw it on the line. He can do all of those things. And he's done that while he's played here. He just wants to put together, 13 games the way he's capable of playing.
Since you've got Trey Millard standing over there, would you like to talk about kind of his role this year and your expectations for him?
Trey's as good a football player as I've been around. I'd say that with him standing outside the room too. He's a unique player that, last year he played 3 different positions. He played tight end, fullback, and played some tailback. Finding ways to continue to use him, I think, is important for us. He gives us the ability to have be in multiple formations, multiple personnel groupings without changing our personnel. That's been important to us when we've been good on offense, especially in our tempo packages. Going back to Brody Eldridge, Jermaine Gresham, who could play inline, outside, then come back in the fullback position, and that's the versatility that he gives us. He's got a lot on his plate. When you're playing different positions like that, there's a lot of the playbook that you got to understand, and he's continuing to grow in that. Does it at a really high level, and expect him to have a huge year for us.
Talk about the quarterbacks behind Landry. Again, the bell-nosing package, how that might change your Yeah, hang on.
Like I say, developing the belldozer package.
What
is that what
was
you
behind
say?
him about the Belldozer package again this year?
Like the way that all those guys have competed behind them, dating back, to last winter, January, February, but certainly during the spring. Even a young guy like Kendall Thompson competed at a high level. Excited about Trevor Knight, a young kid that has only been on campus for 2 practices, kid out of San Antonio. Certainly, I'm sure you're really talking about Drew Allen and Blake Bell. They've continued to grow, continue to compete. They compete against each other, but they handle it in a great way. And, certainly we're trying to find a way to put our best players on the field, 11 at a time, but find unique roles that we can use our players' skill set and find a way to help us score points and win ball games. And that's why we came up with the Belldozer package a year ago. Allowed us to be a lot more efficient in the red zone, in the tight zone, and then third and short situations. But, how we tweak it, how it changes, how we grow from there, that's going back to my original statement that our personnel dictates who and what we can be, and trying to find the right personnel and the right schemes within that personnel is something that we're going to work towards as we continue to go through camp.
You got as many young guys at receiver. You talk about the playbook. Do you have to dial it back, or do you may say you guys got to keep up with us in terms of what you're installing with so many young?
Well, you're going to put pressure on them to grasp it, handle it, and continue to grow. I think you got to be really thoughtful in how you present the information, how you teach it, how you implement it, and what you're doing on a daily basis so they can grasp it and get all the looks and the reps that they need at each position individually to continue to grow. And so are we going to be more simple? I don't know if that's the right term. Are we going to give these guys an opportunity to digest a portion of the package and grow from there? Yeah, we certainly are.
Do you need Kenny to be more of a leader for that group?
Yeah, we need leadership in that group. We need guys that are willing to come into the meeting room every single day or the weight room and be a professional. Study, take care of your body, come and compete every single day, every moment, and be an example of that by the way you conduct yourself, and then take a verbal leadership role. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You have to act that way every single day. You have to be consistent in the way you present yourself every single day before anything you say comes out of your mouth is going to mean anything.
Are you seeing that from him based on a couple days, or you haven't been around him much?
Yeah, he's certainly competed at a more consistent level than he has in the past.
Josh, you have personal experience coming in from a JUCO, picking up an offense, getting out and playing right away, but you had a spring semester. You think it's harder for
a quarterback's playing?
The quarterback's a difficult
too.
position, yeah.
I mean,
but do you think it's harder for a JUCO receiver to come in and pick it all up, or is it harder for a high school guy that can come in and work all summer with a quarterback?
Boy, you're splitting hairs. I think it depends on the situation. It depends on the kid. The experiences that a junior college kid has had. Additionally maturing and growing another 2 years in the weight room or 3 years, depending on how long he's been there. It just depends on the kid. Adrian Peterson coming in as a high school running back, he was pretty physically talented, ready to compete. You know what I mean? I know. Well, I'm just saying each kid is different. All of those guys, LeColton, Woods, Deron Neal, all of those guys have handled themselves in a good way. For 2 days, I'm excited about where they're at and where I think they can go.
When Ryan got hurt last year, I think you heard questions similar to what you're getting now. Kenny's time to step up. He's in a position, and it didn't quite happen for him. How do you make sense of that, and does that give you pause entering, what you're hoping to get from him right now?
Yeah, one guy can't step up and fill a void like that. It's a collective group, and there were deficiencies on the field, and a lot of that came from deficiencies off the field too. But one guy's not going to fill the void left by Ryan, mid-year last year, this year either. And do we need somebody to play efficiently in the slot? Absolutely. That's a big portion of us offensively. But when we're good throwing the ball, pitching and catching it, we got to be good across the board. We got to have 3-4 guys, depending on how many we got out there, that can win one-on-one battles, that can catch the ball consistently and make plays after the catch.
I don't know if you like to categorize receivers like this, but Ryan Broyles for 3 seasons was the number 1 receiver.
Well, that's fair.
Just by virtue of production.
Absolutely.
do you need somebody to be a number one receiver? And is that, if whether you do or not, is that spot sort of open? It could be anybody.
You don't need a number one, but you need 3 guys playing like number ones. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I mean, who's ever on the field has to be capable of giving you consistent production like that. And that's where we fell short a year ago. That's where our consistency fell short.
You see the similarities between this young receiver group and the one that you had in '99. You know, that was a pretty young and experienced group. And are there any lessons to be learned from that year?
And had really never thought about it until you asked that question. I don't know. We'll find out more. You know, just dealing with them for 2 days is tough to make that decision. That it?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Josh.
Thanks, Coach.